Okay, Dave, this is what we got, brother. This thing's been sitting here for several days now, and I didn't want to do a video until I knew this thing was going to hold pressure indefinitely. The pressure actually increased 100 psi's on me. It went up to 1,000. So I went ahead and bled a little bit out. I think it's because of temperature change. It has warmed up a little bit. Essentially what I think is happening is that either there was a large air void in this tank, or we are actually expanding the tank a little bit, which does happen. The tank does expand a little bit when you pressure them up. I've looked into it, and come to find out this bolt was just not long enough to get this tank up to 800 psi's. We can only get 500 psi's using the bolt, and I initially thought it was from trapped air, but it could also be the fact that we are just literally stretching and expanding this tank just a little bit beyond the length of that bolt's ability to compress. So what I've got here is a small hand pump that pumps olive oil or vegetable oil from a little tank inside of here into the pressure booster. And that gives us a chemical separation here, because the oil is going to float on top of the water. So if you fill this part with water, even though you have booze in here, you should still get the compression you want. So this is basically how I pressured this thing up. You just give this thing a few cranks, just like pressuring up a jack. That oil goes into the pressure booster. Now, if you're going to put alcohol in here, you can, but oil sinks in alcohol, usually. I'll have to double check that. But in that case, we would want to lower this below the height of this so that we weren't getting any oil into the pressure chamber. But for the most part, the oil is either going to float or sink, depending on what we do here. I think filling this with water would be our best bet, because the fluid's only going to come down a little bit. It's not going to be pumping gallons of fluid into the tank. It's just... But essentially that's where we're at. This thing's been sitting here. Got a little bit of a mess going from when I hooked it up the other day. But another thing that was happening is the Teflon tape was coming off inside of the canister. And if you put it on just right, all would go well. But just the slightest little variation in how you put that Teflon tape, and the thing wouldn't work at all. So it became a huge pain in the neck, and I had to come up with an immediate solution to the problem. And that's this little bad boy here. This is a 10,000 psi pump. More than enough pressure. We may eventually want to change this to a stainless steel hose, something similar to this, but I'll leave that up to your guys' discretion, because this fluid never comes in contact with the material in the tank anyways. So for the most part, that's where we are, dude. It is holding steady, just under 1,000 psi's. It's actually pressuring up as the day gets warmer. So be on the lookout for that. The fluid inside the water or the booze will expand on heating and pressure up a little bit more. So I'll probably do another bleed down on this thing. Nonetheless, it's a total success, dude. You're pressured up. I think this thing's going to work out just fine. And there you have it, dude. Your wall mount. I do need to find the bolts for this bottom bracket. I have misplaced them, but there's one right there. Other than that, we are good to go. So, as far as cost, you're looking at another $250 for the tank, and this here was another $100. So we're looking at about $680, I think it was. I'll get back to you on the actual number. I don't want to just spout off at the mouth. I have some things wrote down. It did take some time to get to this point. We'll have to talk about that as well. But in the meantime, the thing's done, bro. You are too legit to quit.